One of the big headline stories of last year was the romance between millionaire property tycoon Emmanuel Lieberman and the wealthy and beautiful Mrs. Delia Savage. It was a gossip columnist's delight, conducted against a background of yachts, luxury hotels and penthouse apartments. 56-year-old Mr. Lieberman carried on his courtship with fabulous gifts of jewellery to add to Mrs. Savage's already remarkable collection. She, a former actress, was installed in a flat worth £250,000 in a tower block built by Mr. Lieberman's company overlooking London's Green Park near the Ritz Hotel. The marriage was due to take place in a few months' time. Then, one morning, Mr. Lieberman returned unexpectedly from a business trip to San Francisco and went straight to the penthouse. What he saw there not only made him break off the engagement, but has its sequel today in the Crown Court, as judge and counsel take their places for the case of Lieberman versus Savage.
Mr. Fry.
Lord, may it please the court. I appear in this action for the plaintiff, Mr. Emmanuel Lieberman, assisted by my learned friend, Miss Tate. The action is one for the possession of an apartment situated in Green Park House in St. James's Court in the city of Westminster. If your lordship would care to examine these photographs.
Thank you, Mr. Fry.
The members of the jury will no doubt recognize the apartment as one which has attracted a certain amount of attention from the press.
Is it your intention to put in these photographs as evidence, Mr. Fry?
It is, my lord. They are part of the agreed bundle of documents.
Then the jury may examine them. Incidentally, Mr. Fry, perhaps you would explain the presence of a jury in this action. It is, as you know, very rare these days in cases like these.
I can assure your lordship that it is none of my doing. My learned friend, Mr. Elliot, who appears for the defendant, was particularly insistent on the desirability of a jury and went so far as the Court of Appeal in order to obtain the permission of their lordships. No doubt he had his reasons.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. Please continue.
I was about to say that the penthouse in the photographs is one which has attracted a certain amount of attention from the press. This is, of course, because of the swimming pool which is situated on the roof and other desirable features.
To assist the jury, perhaps you should explain that this flat or penthouse is situated on the top floor of this building. That is, I think, what the word penthouse has come to mean.
I must oblige to your lordship. Of course, I should have mentioned that it is on the 32nd floor.
An unusual place to find a swimming pool.
Oh, quite so, my lord. And this unusualness is reflected in the value of the property, which my client places at £200,000. And the plaintiff, Mr. Lieberman, is a respected figure in the City of London, where he has for some years now been engaged in the business of acquiring and developing property through the company of which he's chairman and managing director, Cosmos Developments Limited. And one of these developments, Green Park House, is the penthouse and office block in question. I have here, my lord, a plan of the apartment which is material to the case and which I should also like to enter as evidence.
These are also part of the agreed documents.
There they are, my lord.
Very well. As we have a jury, make sure they all can see them.
It was my client's intention to reserve the apartment for his personal use, but as you can see from the plan, it was perhaps too spacious for the sole occupation of a man who had had the misfortune recently to lose his wife.
Is the jury to understand that the plaintiff is a widower?
A widower, my lord.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. Were there any children of this marriage?
A son, my lord, Mr. Mark Lieberman, who is now 26 years of age. My client made the acquaintance of the defendant in the autumn of 1971. She was a young woman considerably his junior. What his feelings were to her and how he gave expression to those feelings, he will tell you in due course. All I propose to say at this moment is that he formed the intention to enter into matrimony with Mrs. Savage, who had found that her marriage to her last husband was annulled a few months previously. As earnest and proof of this intention to marry Mrs. Savage, he proposed that she should take up residence in the penthouse, which is the subject of this action. Mrs. Savage agreed and moved into the apartment on the 12th of April 1972. On the 29th of April 1972, my client, Mr. Lieberman, went to San Francisco on business for 4 weeks. On the 27th of May, 1972, he returned to London and went to the penthouse, and there found to his consternation that the defendant was apparently cohabiting with Mr. Mark Lieberman, his son.
This will be disputed by the defendant, my lord.
And no doubt it will, Mr. Elliot.
My learned friend stated it as though it were a fact. It is, of course, merely a presumption on the plaintiff's part.
I said, my lord, that they were apparently cohabiting.
Yes, yes. You will doubtless bring evidence to support that view.
Yeah, quite so, my lord. Now, you may think that no more dreadful discovery than this could have been
Really,
made.
my lord?
I think we should confine ourselves to the facts, Mr. Fry.
I'm obliged. At this stage, I shall say no more than that my client expressed his horror in the strongest terms and told the defendant that she must no longer expect to marry him. Since the penthouse was occupied purely in the expectation of this marriage, he told her that she must vacate it immediately. This Mrs. Savage has refused to do.
Was there no legal agreement as to the tenancy?
Oh, no, my lord, this was to have come later as part of the marriage settlement.
Not a very business-like arrangement.
And that in itself, my lord, shows how deeply my client was infatuated with this woman.
Is that your case, Mr. Fry?
It is, my lord. My client's personal private detective, Mr. Sidney Abbott, was a witness to the order to the defendant to vacate the premises and will be giving evidence in Mr. Lieberman's behalf. The plaintiff has tried all reasonable means to persuade the defendant to vacate the premises, and has now, however reluctantly, been compelled to assist himself by coming to this court. And now, with your lordship's permission, and with the assistance of my learned friend Miss Tate, I will seek to bring the evidence for the plaintiff. First, Mr. Emmanuel Lieberman, the plaintiff himself.
What is your religion? Jewish. You take the book in your right hand, please. The book in your right hand, please, and repeat the words written on the card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I give to this court and jury shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Your name is Emmanuel Julius Lieberman, domiciled at 2 Suffolk Terrace, Regent's Park, in the city of Westminster, and you are in business as a property developer.
That is correct.
Mr. Lieberman, would you mind telling the court your age?
I'm 56 years of age, nearly 57.
Would it be fair to describe you as a man of substance?
I suppose so, yes.
Even of great wealth?
Who's wealthy these days?
At all events, you are the chairman of several public companies, including Cosmos Developments Limited, which owns the freehold of Green Park House.
Yes.
And did you acquire a 99-year lease from Cosmos Developments on the penthouse?
Yes.
Mr. Lieberman, would you please tell the court how you first met Mrs. Savage?
It was about a year ago at the Dorchester Hotel. There was a ball in aid of charity. I believe it was to do with animals, either that or some provincial theatre.
You are a charitable man, Mr. Lieberman.
I am active in certain charitable organizations, yes.
And sometimes, no doubt, on your own account. By whom were you introduced to Mrs. Savage? Who was her companion on this charitable occasion?
On the occasion of the ball?
Yes.
She was partnered by my son, Mark.
Your son, Mark? I see. So at this time a year ago, their friendship was already well advanced.
Really, my lord, how could this witness possibly...
Quite, Mr. Elliot.
Oh, I'm obliged, Your Lordship. I did not, of course, mean to imply anything improper. How long was it before you met Mrs. Savage again?
Oh, a few months later, earlier this year.
Or can you be more precise?
Yes. I believe it was, yes, on the 18th of March.
And where did this second meeting take place?
At Cannes, on board my yacht, Edf Tequila.
On the occasion of this visit to Cannes, had you invited Mrs. Savage to stay on board your yacht?
No, my son Mark asked her if he could bring her along as a guest.
For any particular reason?
Because she's a very amusing and charming woman.
Not because he had any intention of marrying her himself.
If that was his intention, he never said so.
So if anybody said that he had brought her to the south of France for your approval, that would be quite wrong.
He never said anything at all about that.
Was there any significant alteration in your attitude towards Mrs. Savage during her stay in the south of France?
Yes.
Would you tell the court what that was?
I found that I was falling in love with her.
And how long did you stay in the south of France?
Oh, about a week, 10 days. And then we flew back to London together.
You mean you went back without your son?
He flew on A little earlier. He had some business to attend to.
And when you got to London, did you make a certain proposal to Mrs. Savage?
Yes, I did.
Will you tell the court what that was?
I asked her to be my wife.
And what did she reply?
She accepted me.
And in expectation of this marriage, did you make Mrs. Savage certain gifts?
Some jewellery, yes, and a fur coat.
These are not the subject of any claim, my lord, but they tend to establish my client's frame of mind.
Very well, Mr. Fry.
How much do you think were these gifts worth?
Some 13 or 14,000 pounds, something like that.
But there was a special gift, wasn't there?
Yes. I also gave her a platinum key that I had specially made for her
A
by
key
a
to
jeweller.
what, Mr. Lieberman?
I beg your
A
pardon.
key to what?
The front door of the apartment. The penthouse at Green Park House.
And Mrs. Savage was delighted with your generosity.
She appeared to be. I asked her to move in that night because I reasoned as long as she was going to be my wife, the penthouse was hers.
As long as she was going to be your wife. Did it not occur to you that an experienced and unworldly woman such as Mrs. Savage might have preferred a properly drawn-up lease?
That, of course, would have come later.
But only on condition that you were married.
Yes. I wish to make some gesture to her in the meantime.
Of course, a symbolic gesture. Now, Mr. Lieberman, we come to the heart of the matter. This marriage has not taken place. Would you tell the court why not?
Soon after I gave Mrs. Savage the key, she moved into the flat. And a few days later, I was obliged to travel to San Francisco on a business matter. I stayed there 4 weeks.
And do you have any contact with your fiancée during this time?
Yes. I telephoned her every evening.
And on the 27th of May, did you return to London?
Yes.
Did Mrs. Savage know that you were coming on that day?
No. I was due to land at London Airport and fly out shortly afterwards to Stockholm on a one-day visit, returning to London the following day.
But you didn't go to Stockholm, did you?
No. No, there was a fog. The flight was cancelled. And so I thought I'd go straight to the penthouse and give Delia a surprise.
Did she seem surprised to see you?
She seemed very angry. She said I should have let her know I was coming. She was just going to the hairdresser, she told me.
Was any other person present at this interview?
Yes. Delia's maid, Florence. The three of us were standing in the hall.
And Mrs. Savage said that she was going to the hairdresser.
Yes. I said in that case I would meet her for lunch at a restaurant later on. She said yes, that'd be fine. I embraced her. And just as I was about to leave the apartment, the bedroom door opened, and my son Mark came into the drawing room. I remember I said to Delia, "My God, what's he doing here?"
But, Mr. Lieberman, this was the middle of the morning. Why should he not be there?
In my fiancée's bedroom? Stark naked?
Stark naked, Mr. Lieberman?
Not a stitch.
You're quite sure that Mrs. Savage was occupying the master bedroom?
Where else would she be occupying? The other rooms are not decorated.
Did you see any evidence that the defendant was actually sleeping there?
Yes, the bedroom door was open. I could see the bed had been slept in. My lord, how could I stay any longer in such a place?
You were too shocked and
was
confused, no doubt, to make investigations. Did you say anything to Mrs. Savage or to your son?
No, I said nothing to nobody. I went straight off to my club and I had lunch.
When did you next communicate with Mrs. Savage?
I telephoned her that afternoon from my office. I said, if that's the way she did choose to behave, she could, of course, no longer expect to be Mrs. Lieberman.
Did you make any specific accusation?
Yes. I said, don't argue with me, Delia. You've been sleeping with that boy.
Did you say anything about the flat?
Of course. I said I wasn't going to marry her now, and she must get out of it.
And what did she reply?
She said that I must first... My lord, she told me that I would first have to pull the bloody building down.
Mr. Lieberman, was there any witness to this conversation?
My private detective was listening on an extension.
That would be Mr. Sidney Abbott.
Abbott, yes.
Since then you have been in communication with Mrs. Savage, have you not?
Through our solicitors, yes.
But you have had no personal contact?
No.
And Mrs. Savage is still in occupation of these luxurious premises?
For the moment, yes.
Which you made available to her in the expectation, and solely in the expectation, of your future marriage?
That is correct. But you can't expect me to marry her now, can you?
Mr. Elliot?
Mr. Lieberman, will you accept my assurance that I do not wish to add further to your distress?
Thank you, Mr. Elliot.
It must be very painful for you to come into court and make these accusations against two people as close to you as your son and Mrs. Savage.
There seemed to be no alternative.
Be that as it may, I'd like to say on behalf of my client that in everything except the matter of the flat, you've shown a remarkable generosity.
If it's the clothes and the jewellery you mean, I'm quite happy for her to keep them. But the flat is a somewhat more expensive item.
Of course, even to a man as rich and generous as yourself. You remember, don't you, when your son, Mark, was obliged to fly back to London on business, leaving you and Mrs. Savage on the yacht together? On that occasion, you gave your son a large present, did you not?
It wasn't a present. He told me that he was in trouble with his business. He's always in trouble with his business.
Or perhaps it was intended as a loan.
Perhaps it was. But I didn't get it back.
It was, I believe, £5,000.
Yes.
You knew that once Mark received this money, he would fly back to London immediately to sort out his business problems, leaving you and Mrs. Savage alone together.
Are you saying that I gave my son a bribe? That's unworthy. That's terrible.
I must put it to you, Mr. Lieberman, that the effect of this present on Mark was to remove him from the scene.
If he said that, then
I'm suggesting, you see, that even at that moment, having fallen in love with a woman much younger than yourself, you were looking on your son as some kind of rival.
That's not true.
Well, you do admit, Mr. Lieberman, that jealousy may sometimes be unreasonably aroused.
Not in my case. I'm a very reasonable man.
Even in love, Mr. Lieberman?
I believe so, yes.
Or any reasonable man arriving in London unexpectedly would telephone his fiancée from the airport, would you not?
I must object.
I'll rephrase the question, my lord. Why did you not telephone Mrs. Savage from the airport?
I said it before. I thought it would be a surprise for her.
It wasn't because you thought you might catch her with her lover.
No.
Mr. Lieberman, when you arrived at the penthouse, did you ring the bell, or did you use your key?
I used my key, of course.
Well, you seem to have jumped to conclusions with remarkable speed, Mr. Lieberman.
What does that mean?
Well, it would appear that you almost expected to see something improper going on.
I have told the court what I saw. He came out of her bedroom naked.
You think carefully, Mr. Lieberman. Are you sure he was naked?
Sure. Am I sure? Sure, I'm sure. He was stark, staring nude.
My lord, I shall bring evidence to contest this. In the meantime, I would like to refer the witness to the plan of the flat submitted by my learned friend. Now, as we can see, the master suite comprises a bedroom and a bathroom. Anyone coming from the drawing room who wished to use the bathroom would have to pass through the bedroom. And now, Mr. Lieberman, did it occur to you that your son Mark was on his way back from the bathroom?
He has a flat of his own. Does he have to cross the town, go up a lift 32 floors to use his father's bathroom?
Yes, there's 32 floors, Mr. Lieberman. At the time of these events, were they occupied?
No,
Oh, this enormous office block was empty?
except for the security staff and a few guard dogs, yes.
And it was completed how long before?
Oh, 2.5 years, more or less.
Don't you find that remarkable? A building that, according to the press, cost more than 15 million to put up, and 2 years later, it's still without a tenant.
Not remarkable. That's the property business.
Oh, I see.
There were several deals, but they fell through. Imperial Electronics, the Central Bank of Canada, Transocean Airways.
It's most unfortunate for you. Except, I suppose, that the value of these office blocks in central London goes up continually.
That may be so.
My lord, what possible relevance has this matter to the case in hand? My friend asked this question for the sole purpose of exciting rancour and prejudice among the jury, whom he was so anxious to impanel in this case.
I must say, Mr. Elliot, I was myself wondering where you were taking us. What connection can there be between the value of office blocks and the relationship of these parties?
I hope to show, my lord, that there is, in fact, a very close connection.
Oh, very well, Mr. Elliot.
Thank you, my lord. Now, Mr. Lieberman, at the present moment, we know that the penthouse is occupied by Mrs. Savage, but that the rest of the building is empty. Is that right?
That is correct.
You know, there's been some criticism in the press of these large blocks remaining untenanted on the grounds that the full rates cannot be levied on them as long as they stand empty.
I don't take much notice of the press.
Well, in Parliament as well, there have been suggestions that not only should the full rates be levied on these buildings, But that a surcharge of 50% should be paid on top of that.
Yes, I've read something like that, but it's quite iniquitous in my opinion.
It was no more iniquitous, perhaps, than tearing down old buildings in order to raise these concrete blocks which then stand empty for years until their value has risen to many times what they cost to build.
Why? Is it a crime to make a profit?
Yes, it may be. It may be if you ruin a city in the process.
Well, that certainly doesn't apply in the case of Green Park House. I think it's a very beautiful building, and it won't stay empty much longer.
Oh, so at last you found a tenant?
I believe so, yes.
You cannot, of course, disclose the name of the company.
Yes, but I am rather reluctant to do so in public at this moment.
Yes, I thought so. But it is a company.
Yes, a large international concern.
Whose board of directors, no doubt, would be proud to occupy such a beautiful and expensive building.
Well, I hope so.
With a penthouse on top, complete with swimming pool. You see, Mr. Lieberman, what I'm suggesting is that it may be important to you to get Mrs. Savage out of the penthouse, not only for the sake of your poor broken heart, but also for your pocket.
That's quite untrue.
Well, it may be easier to find a tenant for the building. It may be easier to find a tenant for the building if there is vacant possession of the penthouse.
That may be so, but what
this is
relevance
not
does it-
why you've brought this action, Mr. Lieberman.
Certainly not.
Let us return to your evidence. You say, when you saw your son in the flat, you were very angry.
Very angry, yes. And upset.
So upset that you were unable to speak either to him or Mrs. Savage.
What could I say?
There was, in fact, no conversation between you until you telephoned that afternoon.
I've already
when you
told
said,
you what I
Don't
said.
argue with me, Delia. You've been sleeping with that boy. What was she arguing about?
She told me that I was mistaken.
Well, she protested her innocence, in fact, and you refused to listen to her.
I was shaking. And I was crying. I've told you that I was very distressed by all this. I've told you all
but
this.
Not too distressed to call your private detective and ask him to eavesdrop on the conversation. I put it to you, Mr. Lieberman, that then, as now, your chief concern was not for your broken engagement, but for your property.
My chief concern, Mr. Elliot, was for my honor.
Do you wish to examine the plaintiff, Mr. Fry?
Mr. Lieberman, at the time of these distressing events, that is, on the 27th of May this year, did you know of any company that was interested in bidding for the leasehold of Green Park House?
No.
With or
I
without
did not.
the penthouse? And the swimming pool which has so inflamed the imagination of my learned friend?
No. Most certainly not.
Thank you, Mr. Lieberman. You may stand now.
When His Lordship, the Honourable Sir Arthur Desmond Warrington, resumes the case tomorrow, it is expected that Mr. Fry will conclude the case for the plaintiff by calling Sidney Abbott, Emmanuel Lieberman's private detective. Mr. Elliot will then open his case by calling the defendant herself, Mrs. Delia Savage, to the witness box. Lieberman versus Savage, continuing tomorrow in the Crown Court. Manny Lieberman, a 56-year-old property developer, is suing his former fiancée, Mrs. Delia Savage, for possession of the penthouse flat he gave her. Yesterday, he gave evidence of coming home unexpectedly and finding his son Mark, a 26-year-old pop impresario, naked in Mrs. Savage's bedroom. Now, about to take the oath is Mr. Sidney Abbott, Mr. Lieberman's private detective.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence you give to this court and jury shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Mr. Abbott, when Mr. Lieberman asked you to listen to his telephone conversation with Mrs. Savage, what did he say?
Don't tell me lies. He was sleeping with that boy. He told her that their engagement was off and that she'd have to leave the flat.
And what did Mrs. Savage reply?
And exactly what Mr. Lieberman has stated. That he'd have to burn down the bloody building first.
And was that the end of the conversation?
To the best of my recollection, yes, madam.
Mr. Abbott, since retiring from the Metropolitan Police Force, how have you been employed?
I've been working for Mr. Lieberman, sir.
All the time?
No, I had other employment for a year or two.
And where was that?
A P.
I beg your pardon?
PEA, sir. A Piccadilly Enquiry Agency.
Ah, as a private investigator.
That is correct.
And the bulk of that work was in matrimonial cases, I suppose.
The bulk of it, yes.
Collecting evidence for divorces and so on.
Yes.
Now, when Mr. Lieberman asked you to listen into his telephone conversation with Mrs. Savage, did you know that he suspected her of infidelity?
He never said anything about it, sir. He just said, pick up that receiver.
And that remark of hers about burning the building down, was that said seriously or in a joking way?
Well, she called him darling, but she meant what she said, all right, sir.
Darling is a term of endearment, is it not?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott.
Do you wish to examine Miss Tate?
Oh, I think, my lords, rather than risk any further revelations, we prefer to let the matter rest.
As you wish, Mr. Fry.
That, my lord, is the case for the plaintiff.
Please, your lordship, members of the jury. The case for the defendant in this action is that Mr. Lieberman never made marriage a condition of Mrs. Savage's occupation of the penthouse. That the plaintiff was entirely mistaken in the conclusions which he drew from his son's presence there, and that he did a grave injustice to Mrs. Savage by jumping to these conclusions, and that this injustice has been compounded by his breaking off the engagement and ordering her to leave the property. And it was as a result of Mr. Lieberman's gift, and on his advice, that the defendant has sold her own property in Chapel Street, Belgravia. It's now unlikely that she'll be able to purchase a similar property at an equivalent price. With your lordship's leave, with the assistance of my learned friend, Mr. Delia, I will seek to call the evidence for the defendant. First, the defendant herself, Mrs. Delia Savage.
What is your religion?
Church of England.
Take the book in your right hand, please, and repeat the words written on the card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give to this court and jury shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Your name is Mrs. Delia Savage?
Well, no, actually it isn't.
Then can you please tell the court what it is?
Well, I believe legally I'm still the Contessa Miniccioli Cabresi. Miniccioli Cabresi. It's rather a mouthful. My husband was Italian.
But you're generally known as Mrs. Delia Savage.
Yes.
Now, you have in fact been married twice, first to an American citizen and then to this Italian gentleman.
Yes, but that was annulled.
So you're free to marry again if you wish.
Oh, yes.
My learned friend may wish to make something of the fact that you were formerly an actress.
My lord, I'm not sure what I'm being accused of. I hope it is not a lack of gallantry.
I'm sure no one is suggesting that, Mr. Fry.
I'm most grateful to your lordship.
I'd like to come now to your first meeting with the plaintiff's son, Mr. Mark Lieberman. When did that take place?
That was about a year ago. I was at a party in some little mews off Knightsbridge, and I went into the kitchen to find some gin, and he was sitting on the table, playing a guitar.
Did he tell you who he was?
Well, he wasn't anybody, really.
Well, I mean, he didn't tell you that his father was one of the richest men in England.
Well, it wasn't the sort of party where you talk about things like that.
What did you talk about?
A pop concert at the Albert Hall, I think. Yes, it was one for the Persian earthquake. You see, I was on the committee, and Mark said he thought he could get the kitchen sink to come.
The kitchen sink?
The kitchen sink is a rock group, my lord, a musical ensemble, my lord. Did you meet frequently after that?
Yes, quite often.
Mrs. Savage, was there any romantic attachment between the two of you?
None at all. Well, he used to telephone me when he was depressed and needed cheering up.
Which was quite often, was it?
Oh, well, he wasn't very successful in the pop world, and he didn't seem to be able to settle to anything else. He always seemed to be rather in the shadow of his father.
When did you meet his father?
Shortly after I met Mark, very briefly at a charity ball. And then in March, Mark asked me if I'd like to go down to the south of France with him and spend a few days on Manny's yacht.
And it was as a consequence of that visit that Mr. Lieberman Sr. asked you to be his wife?
Yes.
And you accepted him?
Yes.
Without any embarrassment as far as your relationship with Mark was concerned?
Well, I didn't have any relationship with Mark.
So the prospect of becoming his stepmother was in no way an awkward one?
Not at all.
Now, this engagement was marked by a number of gifts, was it not?
Yes, Manny gave me several pieces of jewellery.
Valued at several £1,000s?
Yes, I believe so.
What else did he give you?
He came round one evening and he gave me a little red leather box with a key in it, lying on a sort of white satin cushion.
Did he say what it was?
No, not when he gave it to me. Actually, I thought it was a bit of rather endearingly bad taste. You know, the key to my heart, that sort of thing. But then he said the car was waiting outside to take us round to Green Park House.
Well, that would be the skyscraper office block you'd built.
Yes.
Were you surprised?
No, not really. Well, I knew he was very proud of it, and I was rather touched that he was giving me a conducted tour. It was quite empty. It still is. Really rather creepy.
Creepy?
You know, all those millions of dirty windows and empty rooms and Alsatian dogs chained up all over the place. Well, anyhow, finally, he said, would I like to see the penthouse? And I said, all right, as long as there aren't any dogs. So, when we got up there, he made me take the key out of the box and unlock the door.
Was the penthouse empty?
No, I was absolutely amazed. It was fully furnished. Even had pictures on the wall and underwater lights in the swimming pool.
On the 32nd floor. And what did Mr. Lieberman say about this extraordinary surprise he'd prepared for you?
He said it was all mine. I said, I suppose you mean it will be once we're married. And he said, no, I want you to move in here tonight.
You're sure he said no more than that? He made no conditions?
None.
Mrs. Savage, wasn't it a little inconvenient to move in that night?
That's what I said. But he said, Delia, this is my caprice. Do it for me. Well, and I found that he'd found someone to buy all sorts of things. You know, night dresses, toilet things like that. And, of course, there was bed linen and towels. So I thought I might as well, and I moved in there and then.
And stayed the night?
Yes.
Alone?
No. No, you see, it turned out they'd hired a butler and a maid. Actually, they worked in a hotel he owned. As a matter of fact, they only stayed a week because, well, we didn't hit it off very well, and he did say I could change anything I didn't like.
And Mr. Lieberman, where did he spend that night?
Oh, he went back to his house in Regent's Park.
Oh, I see.
Actually, I thought that was rather sweet and Victorian of him.
And where had you been living up to this time?
I had a house in Chapel Street.
Which is no longer your property.
Oh, no. Manny wanted to sell it for me, so I let him. But I doubt whether I could anything as good now at the same price.
Mr. Savage, when the butler and the maid provided by Mr. Lieberman left, did you engage another servant?
Oh, my maid Florence came from Chapel Street to the penthouse to look after me.
And that would be Mrs. Florence Ferguson.
Yes. She's been with me for ages.
Mr. Savage, we come to the morning of the 27th of May when Mr. Lieberman arrived unexpectedly from San Francisco. Was Mrs. Ferguson with you at that time?
Yes.
And Mr. Mark Lieberman, was he also in the apartment?
Yes. He telephoned at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and he said he'd been shut out of his flat and could he possibly come round.
What was your reaction, Mr. Savage?
Well, I wasn't very keen. He sounded absolutely smashed.
Nevertheless, you told him that he could.
Oh, well, he seemed in such a state, I thought something terrible might happen to him. You see, he's got this little racing car that he can't drive properly. So I told him to leave that where it was and to come round to Green Park House in a taxi. I said I telephoned down to the security men that it was all right to let him up.
And he stayed in the penthouse for the rest of that night?
What was left of it. By the time he arrived, he seemed to have got a second wind. Well, he started drinking champagne and playing gramophone records. After about an hour, I left him to it. I went back to bed.
Mrs. Savage, I must ask you this. Did he go into the bedroom with you?
No, he did not.
Well, where did he sleep?
If he slept at all, I suppose it was in the drawing room.
Mr. Savage, we come to the events of the next morning. Would you tell the court what happened from the time you were awakened?
Well, Florence woke me up at about 10:30. I suppose that she'd heard the noise going on till all hours, and she thought I needed a long lie-in. I had an appointment at 11 o'clock, actually, so I was rather cross.
Oh, in order to reach your bedroom, the maid Florence would have to pass through the drawing room, is that right?
Yes.
Did she say anything about Mark Lieberman's presence there?
Oh, she may have done, but honestly, I was practically unconscious.
So what happened then?
Well, I could see that I was going to be late for the hairdressers, so I dragged on a trouser suit and a pair of dark glasses, and I told Florence to call a cab. Then I went into the drawing room, but there was no sign of Mark. Oh, there was confusion everywhere, and records and clothes lying all over the place. So I called out to him, and he came in through the French windows that lead onto the roof garden. Been in the pool, apparently. He was dripping wet and leaving marks all over the carpet. So I said to him, for God's sake, go and get a towel. Well, he was shaking himself like a wet dog, and I could hear Florence talking to somebody in the hall, and I thought it was all extremely silly and unfunny. So Mark grabbed his shirt, and he went off to the bathroom, and then Manny came down the hall.
Were you pleased to see him?
Of course not. Well, I'd had a terrible night. I must have been looking like something out of a horror movie.
And what did you say to him?
Well, I explained I was just going out to the hairdressers.
Now, where was Mark when this conversation was taking place?
In the bathroom, I suppose. He came out while Manny was in the drawing room.
Out into what room?
Well, through the bedroom and into the drawing room.
And his father saw him?
Yes.
Mrs. Savage, was his son wearing anything?
Yes. He had his shirt and underpants on.
You're sure?
I'm positive.
Later that afternoon, did Mr. Lieberman telephone you?
Yes. Sounded rather drunk. Started ordering me out of the flat. Said I got to pack my bags and get out.
On what grounds, Mrs. Savage?
He seemed to think I was having some sort of affair with Mark. It was absolutely ridiculous.
What was your reply to that?
I told him not to be so silly. I said I was going to stay where I was until he calmed down and stopped talking nonsense.
Could you have expressed yourself more forcibly than that?
Well, I may have done. Really, I was really very shattered and angry too, I suppose.
Are you still angry with Mr. Lieberman?
Well, not as angry as I was, but I do wish he'd taken my word for it instead of dragging all this up in court.
Your word for what, Mrs. Savage?
That I hadn't asked Mark to come round, that I didn't particularly want him there, and I certainly wasn't having any sort of affair with him.
You see, it may be suggested to you by my learned friend that since the marriage has not taken place, you have no moral right to occupy the penthouse. What would you say to that?
But the marriage has not taken place yet.
Are you saying that you would still consider marriage to Mr. Lieberman?
That all depends whether he can bring himself to admit he was wrong.
Mrs. Savage, what would you say were your general feelings towards matrimony?
Oh, I don't think I have any general feelings towards it.
Would you agree that it is a solemn undertaking in which both partners accept certain responsibilities?
Certainly.
Of course, one could describe a business merger in the same terms, but then marriage is so much more than that. Isn't it, Mrs. Savage?
Oh, yes, indeed. For instance, love comes into it.
Well, yes, perhaps you're right, though perhaps among the rich it's not the most important of considerations.
Well, that's your opinion. It certainly isn't mine.
You're a young woman, Mrs. Savage, and if I may say so, a remarkably attractive one. I'm a little older and possibly more cynical. It seems to me that the rich may be inclined to marry for money and to seek love elsewhere.
I don't think you can generalize.
No, well, let us come from the general to the particular. You've told the court how you met young Mr. Mark Lieberman at a party and struck up a friendship with him.
Yes.
Now, he's a good-looking young man, somewhat younger than yourself.
Yes.
And not particularly well off.
No, as a matter of fact, you always seem to be very much in debt.
Not the sort of person that you would wish to marry.
No.
Indeed, the subject was never raised.
Honestly, I don't think it occurred to either of us.
Certainly not to you, Mrs. Savage, because I have it on the highest authority that when you married again, you intended it to be to a rich old man.
Really, I can't imagine who said that.
You did, Mrs. Savage, in an interview with the Sunday newspaper in 1969. When a woman has wealth and beauty, what are her secret desires?
I think that was the headline. I didn't write it.
Oh, let me see. My ambition is to settle down with some lovable and not too frisky millionaire. Did you write that?
I don't think I would have expressed myself in quite such a vulgar way.
Who did write it, then?
The Sunday paper sent a newspaper man round to see me. We talked into a tape recorder. I'm fairly sure I never said anything quite like that.
They put your name on the article as authoress.
Ah, well, they paid me a large sum of money to do that.
Oh, money. Well, perhaps that's why you didn't take legal action against the perpetrators of this lapse of taste.
The money wasn't for me.
Huh?
Well, I agreed to that article being written because I was trying to raise £10,000 for Biafra at the time.
And you didn't mind being made to seem avaricious.
That seemed trivial, seeing what was going on out there.
Well, let us come to the visit you paid to the plaintiff's yacht at Cannes. What do you think was the purpose of that visit?
It was just that Mark was going down there and he asked me if I'd like to go with him.
For any particular reason?
No, I don't think so.
But whatever the motive, it is a fact that within a few days, Mr. Lieberman Sr. had fallen in love with you. Rich old Mr. Lieberman, and you were consenting to become his wife.
I think that's rather an offensive way of putting it.
While Mark, his part in the affair completed, was flying back to London with a present from his father of £5,000.
I knew nothing at all about all that.
It rather sounds, doesn't it, like the kind of transaction which is known in the City of London as a takeover bid.
Got that sort of mind, I suppose it would.
My lord, if my learned friend is suggesting there was some kind of transaction between the father and son in this matter, he should have examined his own client about it.
Yes, it sounds like pure speculation to me, Mr. Fry. You're not suggesting that the defendant was a party to any such agreement?
I stand rebuked, my lord. At all events, when you became engaged, Mr. Lieberman gave you the key to the penthouse at Green Park House.
Yes.
Now, this was a sentimental gesture, was it not? Hardly the sort of action that one would expect from a hard-headed property developer.
My fiancé did behave like that sometimes.
When he was in love, perhaps? It does sound, doesn't it, like the kind of action that would be done by a very foolish, fond old man, as Shakespeare put it.
I don't know how Shakespeare put it, but if Mr. Lieberman made a sentimental gesture, he usually made sure all the legal ends were tied up first.
But he didn't, did he, on this occasion? There was no proper lease or tenancy agreement drawn up.
No.
Didn't that strike you as very unsatisfactory, Mrs. Savage?
No. And anyway, my solicitor, Mr. Greengrove, said it would be quite in order for the present.
Oh, you mean that in the midst of this whirlwind romantic courtship, you were given time to consult your solicitor?
Well, there's nothing strange in that, it seems to me.
Well, unfortunately, this marriage did not take place because Mr. Lieberman thought, and I put it no higher than that you were cohabiting in the penthouse with his son.
He may have thought so, but he was entirely wrong.
But would you not agree that it was extremely unwise of you to let Mark come up to the flat in the small hours of the morning when you were living there alone with your maid?
I see now that it was, yes. But at the time, I was too tired to think. Look, I'd taken a sleeping pill. All I wanted to do was to get back to bed.
But in the morning, you were feeling somewhat more refreshed.
Oh, a little brighter, yes.
And yet when Mr. Lieberman came into the flat and saw his son cavorting about in the nude in your bedroom and said, "My God, what's he doing here?" you apparently had no explanation to give.
Well, he didn't give me a chance. He didn't want to listen. And anyway, Mark had his shirt and underpants on, for God's sake.
Could it be that you had no explanation to give?
I could have told him the truth, but he went storming out.
A few minutes before that, he had arranged for you to meet him later at the Ritz.
Yes.
But you didn't go there. Why not?
Well, I didn't feel much like discussing all this in public over lunch.
Not even to defend yourself against an unfair accusation.
Not at the Ritz.
So Mr. Lieberman lunched alone and, according to you, got drunk.
I said he sounded drunk on
But
the
you know that
telephone.
Mr. Lieberman never drinks.
Well, I think on this occasion he did.
Yes, well, perhaps you're right, because when a teetotaler drinks, it's usually because he's very upset, isn't it?
Well,
you do agree that he had reason to be upset?
I suppose so.
You suppose so?
Oh, look, you must remember he'd been travelling all night. On any other occasion he might have been surprised to see Mark, but he wouldn't have made all this great big thing about it. Oh, I'm only desperately sorry that it happened when it did.
Sorry for your own sake or for his?
More for his, I think. I do think that one ought to try and see the other person's point of view.
Yes, well, that's a good deal easier, I suppose, when you're occupying the other person's penthouse.
Mr. Fry, please confine yourself to questioning the witness.
Oh, thank you, my lord. In the course of the telephone conversation later on, did you use abusive language to Mr. Lieberman?
Fairly abusive, yes.
Did you, in fact, tell him to piss on?
I may have done.
Well, I may be very old-fashioned, Mrs. Savage, but is this really a way a lady expresses herself?
I thought it was rather mild, actually, considering he was trying to throw me out.
So you did say it?
Really, I can't remember.
You've heard the evidence of the detective, Mr. Abbott. That had the ring of truth, did it not? He was, if you remember, somewhat shocked.
Well, that sort of person would be, I suppose.
Did you tell Mr. Lieberman that in order to get you out of Green Park House, he would have to burn the bloody building down?
Quite possibly.
And you believe that after all these acrimonious expressions had been used, the quarrel between you and Mr. Lieberman was no more than a lover's tiff arising out of some stupid misunderstanding?
I still believe that.
Would it surprise you to learn that Mr. Lieberman has now no intention of marrying you, whatever the outcome of this case?
Well, if so, I'd rather he told me so himself. I mean, that would be kinder, wouldn't it? After all, He didn't propose through a third person.
But if you take my word for it that this is his attitude, do you not think it would be more honourable of you to vacate this flat?
No, I don't see why I should suffer because of his unjustified suspicions.
You mean you look upon the penthouse as some sort of consolation prize for having your engagement broken off?
Well, I think I'm entitled to some compensation, don't you? I mean, Mr. Lieberman sold my house. I've nowhere else to live.
Are you saying that your house in Chapel Street was worth the equivalent of £200,000?
I think that figure is exaggerated.
How much is your broken heart worth, Mrs. Savage? 50,000, 100,000? How much did you get from your last husband, the Italian
I don't
count?
see that has anything to do with it.
How much from the husband before that, the American who
Look,
died?
all I'm saying is that it was Mr. Lieberman who broke the engagement off, not me. Well, if I was bringing an action for breach of promise,
That perhaps happily is no longer possible. But you've rather changed your attitude, haven't you? A moment ago, you were saying that you still hoped for marriage to Mr. Lieberman if these misunderstandings, as you call them, could be straightened out. Correct me if I'm wrong. But your position now seems to be that you intend to hang on to this picturesque apartment whether you marry Mr. Lieberman or not.
But I think I'm fully justified in doing so. Manny gave me that flat with no strings.
That, Mrs. Savage, is a matter for the jury to decide. If they feel that you are totally innocent and blameless, they will no doubt find in your favour. But I must put the other possibility to you, Mrs. Savage, that you and Mark Lieberman were lovers from the first night when you met at the party.
That is not true.
And that when he was unwise enough to introduce you to his father, you at once saw that the older man was the better catch.
No.
He gave you a great quantity of jewels and furs and lodged you in this sumptuous apartment in the expectation of your marriage. But you thought you could do better than that, Mrs. Savage. To use a vulgarism, you thought you could have your cake and eat it. So while taking the father's money, you kept up your sexual association with the son.
That is entirely false.
Thank you, Mrs. Savage. That is all.
When the court resumes its sitting tomorrow, the defence is due to call its final witnesses, Mrs. Savage's maid Florence and Mr. Lieberman's son Mark. The jury will then retire to consider their verdict in the case of Lieberman versus Savage in the Crown Court. On the third and final day of this hearing, the jury will decide who was the rightful owner of the luxurious penthouse flat in Green Park House, Manny Lieberman, the millionaire property developer, or the rich and beautiful Delia Savage, to whom he gave it when they became engaged. Yesterday, Mrs. Savage strongly denied that she had been having an affair with Mr. Lieberman's son Mark, a 26-year-old impresario, who will be giving evidence today. Called to the witness box now is the maid who worked for Mrs. Savage in the penthouse, Mrs. Florence Ferguson.
Your name is Mrs. Florence Ferguson. You're employed as a domestic servant by the defendant, Mrs. Savage.
That's right, yes.
Your address is the same as hers, the penthouse at Green Park House.
Yes.
And you've been in Mrs. Savage's employment for how long?
About 7 years.
Will you tell the court, Mrs. Ferguson, what happened early on the morning of the 27th of May?
How early do you mean?
The wee small hours, Mrs. Ferguson. Say about 3 o'clock.
Oh. Well, I think I was asleep.
Do you remember being disturbed at all? Say by the telephone, for instance.
No, sir, I can't hear it from my room.
Did you hear anything from your room, Mrs. Ferguson?
Yes, but that was later. I heard the radiogram playing and people talking.
Did that surprise you, Mrs. Ferguson?
Well, it did a bit, because Mrs. Savage was alone when she went to bed.
Were the sounds coming from the bedroom, then?
Oh, no, sir, from the drawing room.
And later in the morning, when you took tea to Mrs. Savage in her bedroom, was there anyone with her?
Good gracious, no. Of course not.
Was there anyone in the drawing room?
Only Mr. Mark, sir. He was on the sofa.
And do you remember how Mr. Mark was dressed?
He was fully clothed.
Lying on the sofa, fully clothed?
Yes.
Mrs. Ferguson, did you at any time see Mark Lieberman in Mrs. Savage's bedroom?
Well, yes, sir. You see, he took a fancy for a morning dip and went out to the swimming pool.
Yes, did you see him do that?
No, but I did see the footprints all over the carpet. Well, as I was saying, he must have gone to the toilet because when I was arranging flowers in the hall, Mr. Lieberman let himself in and his son came out again.
Through the bedroom?
Yes, through the bedroom and into the drawing room.
And presumably at the same moment his father saw him too. Now, how did he react?
He seemed very angry, sir.
Do you think, Mrs. Ferguson, from what you could see of the circumstances, there was any justification for his anger?
None whatsoever, sir.
Because you'd never seen anything improper between the defendant and Mr. Mark?
Good gracious, no.
Not on that occasion, nor on any other?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Ferguson.
Mrs. Ferguson, you said that early in the morning of May the 27th, you were woken up by the sound of voices and of music playing.
That's right, miss.
In the drawing room?
Yes.
Now, the noise could equally well have been coming from the bedroom, couldn't it?
Oh, I don't think so, miss, because I'm sure I heard the radiogram.
Has Mrs. Savage a radio in her bedroom?
Well, yes, she has, but I don't
Then you can't be sure which room the sounds were coming from, can you?
Well, not for sure.
Your room is off the entrance hall, down the passage leading to the kitchen.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferguson, is there only one bedroom in the servants' quarters?
No, there's mine and another.
And that bedroom is fully furnished, with a bed and so forth?
I couldn't say, miss.
Oh, come, Mrs. Ferguson. Presumably you clean in there?
Well, yes. I think it's fully furnished.
It must be. Because before you came to work at the penthouse, there were two servants there, a butler and a maid. Isn't that so?
Now you mention it, yes.
And so when Mr. Mark arrived in the middle of the night, there was no need for him to sleep on the sofa, was there? He could have slept on the bed in the spare servant's room.
Well, perhaps Mrs. Savage thought it wasn't aired.
Thank you, Mrs. Ferguson.
Elliot, do you wish to ask any more questions of this witness?
No, my lord, no further questions.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mark Lieberman, please.
What is your religion?
Whatever you like. C of E.
Take the book in your right hand, please, and repeat the words written on the card.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give to this court and jury shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Your name is Mark Lieberman, of no permanent address, and at present you're staying at the Berkeley Square Hotel.
Right.
By occupation, you're a musical impresario.
Yes?
And will you please tell the court how you first met the defendant, Mrs. Savage?
It was at a party given by some friends.
Sometime after that, you took her to stay on board your father's yacht at Cannes.
Right.
Was there any particular reason for that visit?
Nothing special.
There was no question of asking your father's approval for your marriage to Mrs. Savage.
Christ, no.
I beg your pardon?
No.
Thank you. Oh, did it come as a surprise to you when your father told you that he was going to marry Mrs. Savage?
Yes, he did a bit. He never talked about getting married again.
After your mother's death, you mean?
Right.
What did you think of his plan to marry Mrs. Savage?
Fantastic. Good for both of them.
You didn't feel that you and your father were rivals for her affections?
Not at all.
Now, while the three of you were in Cannes, did your father give you a substantial sum of money?
Yes, he did, but that was nothing whatsoever to do with Delia. I'd organised a pop concert that hadn't gone down too well, and the creditors were leaning on me. In fact, I was pretty desperate.
Let us come to the events of the 27th of May, or rather the night before. Where were you living at that time?
Kensington. I had a flat.
Now, on the night of the 26th, did something happen in relation to your tenancy?
Yeah, they threw me out. Well, they didn't exactly throw me out. The landlord changed the lock, so when I got back, I couldn't get in. I tried for a while, then somebody came down from upstairs and told me what had happened.
Did you afterwards receive an explanation from the landlord for his actions?
Yeah, he said I'd been making too much noise, holding parties, that kind of thing.
We may take it, perhaps, that you're somewhat unconventional in your way of life.
I suppose so, yes. It wasn't as if it was a continuous orgy or anything, just a few friends getting some sounds together normally.
Listening to music, my lord. After you'd been denied access to your flat, what did you do?
I went to a phone box and rang Delia and asked if she could put me up. She says she was going to bed, but if I came round straight away in a taxi, she'd wait up for me. When I got there, I wasn't feeling very sleepy, so we had a few drinks and we talked a bit, and then she went straight to bed.
And where did you spend the night?
On the thing. Sofa in the drawing room.
Will you tell us what happened in the morning?
I woke up feeling terrible, so I thought I'd go and have a splash in the swimming pool.
How were you dressed for this early morning dip?
In my underpants. And when I got out, I put my shirt on, I think, and then I wanted to go to the loo.
Where was Mrs. Savage at this time?
She came out of the bedroom, dressed as if she was going out. She said she was late for an appointment. So I just went straight to the bathroom.
Through Mrs. Savage's bedroom?
Yes.
From which a few minutes later you emerged, still clad in your somewhat unconventional attire.
Yes. Ran slap into my father.
Did he ask you what you were doing there?
No, he didn't really. Just started yelling at Delia.
Having jumped to certain conclusions?
I suppose so, yes.
Were his conclusions justified?
No.
Mr. Lieberman, were you on that night, or any other night, Mrs. Savage's lover?
No. Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Now,
Mr. Lieberman, for the benefit of those who, like myself, are unfamiliar with what I believe is called the lifestyle of the younger generation, would you explain what we ought to understand by musical impresario?
Yeah, well, I'm the chairman of a company that manages musical entertainments.
Oh, something like Glindborn.
No. Not really, no. Pop festivals, organising gigs, that kind of thing.
Pop festivals and organising gigs. Is that, would you say, a remunerative enterprise?
Not very, in my case.
You are, in fact, rather frequently in debt.
Sometimes.
Does your father give you an allowance?
No. He stopped that when I left university.
You manage, nevertheless, to lead a life of some extravagance. Parties, fast cars, trips abroad, and so forth.
When I've got money, yes.
And a good deal of female companionship, if the newspapers are to be believed. Not the sort of life of which your father, for instance, would approve.
He's a bit old-fashioned in some ways.
A bit prudish.
It's fair enough, yes.
Easily shocked.
By some things?
For example, by the appearance in his fiancée's flat of a naked young man.
I wasn't naked.
Would not that be a shocking sight to Mr. Lieberman?
Yeah, I suppose it would be.
Is that why you paraded yourself in front of him?
Look, I didn't. I didn't even know he was coming back to the flat. He's supposed to be in Stockholm.
But when you heard his voice in the hall, you knew he was not in Stockholm, and it seemed to you a God-given opportunity to advertise your presence.
Why should I want to do that? There was no point.
Mrs. Savage is a very wealthy woman, isn't she?
I believe so, yes.
She's been made a good deal wealthier by your father's generosity, and he has been generous, hasn't he? I know not what quantity of furs and jewels, the occupancy of a flat valued at £200,000. Mrs. Savage was quite a catch, wasn't she, Mr. Lieberman?
Yes, but she was engaged to him.
But not for long after you'd made your compromising appearance in her bedroom.
Look, if you're suggesting I did it deliberately, it was pure chance.
Were you surprised when your father brought this action?
Yes, I was horrified. I was shattered. I didn't think he was that fond of money. To drag all this up just to get her out of the flat seems...
You thought he wouldn't?
If you want the honest truth, I would have thought he would have had more pride.
We do want the honest truth, Mr. Lieberman. And I put it to you that you wanted Delia Savage for yourself, and if possible, the penthouse too.
That's ridiculous. It never even crossed my mind.
You'd already been given £5,000 to withdraw from the contest.
I hadn't.
And now you thought you'd come back and try for the jackpot. Isn't that right, Mr. Lieberman?
No. No.
Thank you, Mr. Lieberman. That's all. May it please your lordship, members of the jury, my client allowed Mrs. Savage to occupy the penthouse in the expectation of their marriage. That marriage has not taken place. And after seeing the parties concerned, you may well feel that of all the marriages contemplated between man and woman, this was the one least likely ever to be solemnized. By what right, therefore, does Mrs. Savage continue to occupy the flat at Green Park House? You've heard that she sold her house in Chapel Street, and you may be sure that through the good offices of Mr. Lieberman, she has obtained the top market price. Does she then want both to pocket the money for that and retain my client's flat? We turn now to the part played by Mr. Mark Lieberman in this affair. You may well feel that the involvement between this young man and Mrs. Savage has been peculiarly close throughout. She was on his arm when my client first met her. She was again his companion on her visit to the south of France. And when Mr. Lieberman returned unexpectedly 2 months later from America, who should he see emerging naked from his fiancée's private suite but the prodigal son again? Who could blame him if he was shocked into abandoning his marriage plans? My learned friend has suggested that my client's real reason for wanting to eject Mrs. Savage from the penthouse was that he wanted to gain control of the whole of Green Park House in order to dispose of the lease to some company or corporation. I hope, members of the jury, you will treat this suggestion with the contempt it deserves, since, as you yourselves have heard, no suitable client for Green Park House was found until long after the unfortunate episode on the 27th of May took place. In conclusion, after what has been said about him in court, I must remind you that my client has treated Mrs. Savage throughout with the utmost generosity. He's allowed her to keep all the presents he lavished on her to the value of some £14,000. All he asks of this court is that she should be made to relinquish the penthouse, to which she has no right, either in morality or law.
Please, Your Lordship, members of the jury. From time to time, a case comes up for hearing in these courts in which the cost, in terms of suffering and humiliation to both parties, seems to far outweigh any advantage that may be gained by either of them. Now, this you may think is such a case. We don't know what Mr. Lieberman's motives were in bringing this action against Mrs. Savage. He may have wished to punish her for what he believed to be her infidelity. Or rather, more simply, he may have wanted to regain possession of an extremely valuable piece of property which in happier times he had bestowed on her. The third possibility, which you'll remember I put to Mr. Lieberman, is that the public outcry over these vast empty office blocks that disfigure London caused him some concern. And he was anxious to find a tenant for the building, which of course he couldn't do so long as Mrs. Savage was in occupation of a part of it. But whatever his reasons for bringing this action, members of the jury, he's paid a high price. He has publicly accused his son of indulging in sexual intrigue with the woman whom he, Mr. Lieberman Sr., was about to marry. Now, that you may think is about as squalid an accusation as a man can make against his own flesh and blood, and one which I submit is totally unsupported by the evidence. Now, what is this evidence? It has been established that Mr. Lieberman is an astute and successful, very successful businessman. Here is a man whose business activities demand the services of a permanent private detective. Now, I submit that if evidence had existed, my learned friend would have done more than just imply a sexual relationship. And we've heard from Mark Lieberman, a young man whose way of life is admittedly unconventional. We've heard how he was locked out of his flat in the middle of the night. What more natural than that he should telephone Mrs. Savage and ask for her assistance? What more natural than that she should give it? This was no guilty pair of lovers. Their relationship was simply that of a young man to the woman who was about to become his stepmother, a relationship devoid of any sexual overtones. Apart from the question of dress, there are no great discrepancies in the accounts given by both parties of what Mr. Lieberman saw on the morning he arrived unexpectedly at his fiancée's flat. The difference is in the interpretation which Mr. Lieberman chose to put upon it. We shall never know whether he was blinded to all reason by his unjustified suspicions, or whether he more calculatingly set about using these suspicions as a means of regaining the penthouse. We cannot tell how in that businessman's mind of his, the loss of future wife would weigh against the acquisition of £200,000, perhaps much more. But what is certain, members of the jury, is that the decision to break off the engagement was Mr. Lieberman's. Mr. Lieberman's alone. Now I ask you not to make Mrs. Savage a victim of a maneuver which may have its origins not in jealousy, members of the jury, but in simple commercial greed.
Members of the jury, it is now my task to direct you as briefly and clearly as I can to the requirements of the law, so that you may come to a fair and just decision. You may have been puzzled, as I was, by the fact that no written contract was drawn up between the parties. But I must direct you that in law the position is this. The defendant has no right to sell or otherwise dispose of the property. Her entitlement to the enjoyment of this penthouse is limited to the right to occupy it for her own personal use. But the question before you is, for how long? If you believe the defendant when she tells you that Mr. Lieberman urged her to move in immediately without any conditions as to marriage, she is entitled to remain in possession of the property for as long as she wishes. If, I repeat, the gift was unconditional. The plaintiff, on the other hand, has told you that he gave Mrs. Savage the use of the flat only until such time as a proper marriage settlement could be drawn up, which you may think will now never happen, the engagement having been broken off. If you accept the plaintiff's evidence, therefore, I shall have to bring in an order for possession against Mrs. Savage. But, members of the jury, there is a third possibility. If you find that the gift was conditional on marriage, but that the defendant nevertheless wrongfully and without just cause refused to marry the defendant on a mistaken view of her infidelity, she would be entitled to remain in possession. Now, members of the jury, you are the sole judges of fact, and I put to you 3 questions. 1. Was the handing over of the flat by means of the gift of the key unconditional and independent of their remaining engaged? Or 2, was it done simply and solely on condition that the marriage took place later? 3, if so, has the plaintiff wrongfully refused to honor that condition by breaking off his engagement to the defendant without just cause and in such a way that the defendant, by the sale of her house, has acted irrevocably to her detriment? Members of the jury, you will now retire and consider your verdict.
The jury, made up of members of the public, are now returning to the courtroom to deliver their findings in the case of Lieberman versus Savage. No one in court knows whether they will find for the plaintiff, Mr. Emmanuel Lieberman, or for the defendant, Mrs. Delia Savage.
Rise, please. Members of the jury, are you all agreed upon your verdict?
We are.
You find for the plaintiff or for the defendant?
For the defendant.
Very well. I shall enter judgment for the defendant.
My Lord, will you make an order as to costs?
Yes. I award costs to the defendant.
Rise, please.
Next week, a chance for you to join another jury in assessing the facts when our cameras again return to watch a leading case in the Crown Court.